Hi, this is McCoy Buck, and I'm going to show you how to start using Nima. So after you have registered and created your profile, to start creating your character, you're going to do it one of two ways. You can either select your files, or if you select on your drop down right here, you can select your files or new. Let's go ahead and go to your files. Here we are on our character page. These are all the files of the characters that I have been working on so far. On this page, I can either rename, duplicate, or delete any one of these files. Let's go ahead and create a new character. All right, so now that we have created a new file, we are in Nima. This is the Nima interface, and it's broke up into 3 different panels here. On the left-hand side, we have the hierarchy panel. This is what we're going to be using when we are building and animating our character. So here in this setup mode, we have our assets. This is where we'll be uploading our character. Our draw order, we'll talk more about that when we get there, as well as our hierarchy. And if you click on animate here, this is going to switch to the animate mode. And once we have a character here and we have it rigged and everything, this is where we will be animating. Let's go ahead and real quick, let's import our character. To import a character, you can do it one of 2 ways. If you want to import assets individually, simply click on this plus icon right here and import those images. However, if you want to follow along and use the downloaded Photoshop file that we're providing you, then go ahead and select that file from wherever you saved it on your computer. I have mine here in the assets folder. It's going to be labeled the kid and it's going to be a PSD file. To bring this PSD file into Nima, simply drag and drop anywhere on the interface. This is where you're going to be doing most of the work, is right here on stage. The next panel, just right of our hierarchy panel, is the selection panel. To have your selection panel be active, simply click on an item. Once you do, all the properties of that item you have selected are available here. Most of these are going to be animatable when you toggle your animate mode. You can see right here, you have your icons to keyframe each one of these transformation and render options. We'll be getting into that once we begin animating. And on the right side here, we have our toolbar panel. As you can see here on the right-hand side, as I switch from setup to animate mode, the tools are dynamically changing for what I need. One quick thing to mention before we start rigging our character is if you come down here to this little gear icon, you can click on that. This is going to bring up some additional options as well. If you click on your preferences, you have your preferences that you can set. Your revision history is extremely handy. If ever working with this character and you mess up, you can go to an exact date and time. And before you even restore that current version in that date and time, you can actually preview it to see if it's the right version before restoring. And everything right now that I'm covering, you can find in your getting started, talking about the 3 different panels that we just mentioned. And one handy thing that you might want to keep open until you have this memorized is your keyboard shortcuts. We're going to be using these a lot. All right, now let's get started. So I'm going to hop back into the setup mode. And once you have dropped your character into Nima, you can see your assets folder has expanded with all of the assets or all of the layers of this Photoshop file. If you want to use your own Photoshop file, be sure and flatten your layers before bringing them into Nima so everything loads correctly here on stage. So let's first take a look at our hierarchy panel in the assets group right here. So your assets is a list of all the files that are available to be used on this project. Not all of them might be on the stage. For example, if I was to take and delete an item from stage, it does not get removed from my assets. So if ever at any time I need to bring that item back or change it out with another one, I would simply just take and drag and drop that right back into stage. Now, once I have done that, this is going to bring us to our next step in the hierarchy panel. And that's going to be our draw order. As you can see here, I drag this back into stage and it's going to put that visor layer on top of all the other layers I have created. So the draw order reflects the order that images are rendered on the screen, which you may want to be different from the hierarchical order of your character skeleton. So in this particular case, I have the visor that's on the very top. I'm going to want to bring that back down below his eyes. And now I can just make a few adjustments to that visor to make it fit a little bit better. So again, if at any time you want to take and you want to add more assets or you want to change an asset out, maybe you notice that there's a mistake and you want to go back into Photoshop, redraw it, and then re-import it, simply click on this plus icon, and then to reorganize that particular layer, simply just click and drag any of those layers that you want to go so that everything's in order on this draw order selection. Now, if you have everything set up correctly, we are now ready to move into our hierarchy. Go ahead and drop that down. Now the hierarchy, as you can see here, by default is going to look just like our draw order. However, if we move a particular image layer beneath another layer, it's not going to change the draw order. This is sometimes needed to set your skeletal structure up properly, but in this case, our draw order is going to match exactly as our hierarchical order. One thing that we can do in this image hierarchy, to show an example, you can see that any item that I select here in stage is going to be highlighted also in my hierarchy. So in this example, I have two different items. I have my right foot top, which is this little yellow thing right here that I can drag out. And then I have my bottom leg, which is made up of two pieces. We have our right foot for this layer, and we have right toes for this layer. So what I can do in this particular case is I can take the item labeled right foot top, and I can actually nest that inside of the right foot layer. Because the right foot top image is going to be nested inside of the right foot image, all I need to do is bind the bone to the right foot, and both of those images will be bound to the same bone. I went ahead and did that for the other foot, but for the example of the visor, we could do the same thing. You can see for our visor, we actually have 1, 2, 3 different items that make up this visor. So in this case, what we can easily do is take our eyes and drag it underneath of the visor, and then we can take the earpiece and also drag that underneath the visor. So if we were wanting to lock this layer or hide that particular layer, you can see it's now all attached as one instead of 3 different assets. Same thing can be done for the face. So if I click on the head layer, you can see it brings up head. But if I click on this mouth right here, you can see it also brings up mouth. Now again, everything that I'm showing you is totally optional. You can keep all of your layers separate. However, when it comes to binding, this makes it just a little bit easier. Alright, so that is it for this video. We brought in our character and talked about the hierarchy selection in this hierarchy panel. In the next video, we're going to start adding bones to this character so we can start bringing him to life. I'll see you there.